Welcome back, everybody, to another live stream of Blurcraft. Do a little bit better of a view. So this is where we got through last night, working on it, live stream. I really like the way that this piece is coming out. Very cool to be inspired by the community, so we're gonna stick with it, and we're going to do some more work on this. So I do want to do EVA foam around these. I think I might work a little bit more on this scaffolding. And let's see if I can get you a good shot in here. I want to put a platform here on the something like that. So we are gonna try to do that. That right there does not look too bad. So we're gonna cut one of these little pieces of paper straws down a little bit just to give us another support in there. We probably don't have the best view of what I am working on right this second, but I'll show you. Well, I want to put a platform here to continue the pathing around this and under this. So I have this chunk right here, this little cool dude, and we're gonna just make a little platform, and it doesn't have to look perfect like it's always been there. I want it to look like somebody threw it up a chunk of, not threw up, but you know, tossed a chunk of wall, busted wall, or some ruin to build that little platform. So we got our hot glue gun. Gonna go at this a little bit. That guy right in there. Put a blob of hot glue right down there. Can I get there? Can I do it? Bam. So now we got a nice little platform in there, and I will strengthen that up with some wood glue or PVA glue when I put the texture on it. What kind of beans do monsters eat? I don't know, freak bait. Whatever kind of beans they want to, they're fucking monsters. Pardon the language, but yeah. So we got our platform, and again, I will strengthen that up a little bit when I put on some texture, because I can't really get there with the hot glue. So we're just gonna be okay with that. That went up easy. Next, I want to do some railing. Human beings. Okay, yeah, I get it. That's good. Mr. Breasts. Okay, that has nothing to do with Necromunda or terrain building or anything, so I'm not really going to respond to it. I guess. I don't even understand it. So whatever, dude. So we're gonna keep going with this. And I'd like to do just some edging to take off the, just the way that this looks. So I do like to use this same tubing, which are paper straws. For that, I want to angle cut this edge so that it bumps up against that bottle a little bit more flush. And then we're gonna angle cut this edge. I need a better razor blade, and that will be easier. Bam. Give you a nice little, relatively easy pattern for, what would that be? I guess it would be like fascia board, or the fascia on the platform. So, you know, put that up there. And I understand that there's usually nobody in a live chat, and I'm talking to myself, which might seem weird, but that's okay. I'm a weird guy. I'm sitting here putting trash together, making a city out of it. So I got this piece, which is the other piece that I cut off of this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try to use that joint. And that will do. That will do. So, but yeah, this has been a pretty fun build so far. I didn't have all the resources I would have liked to when I started it. I actually just started it because someone in the chat asked me how I, kind of conceptualize pieces. So I just started putting this together to show them, and this is how far it's gotten. I think it's been about an hour of work on each video, and I think this is the 5th one, so about 5 hours of work. A lot of it is slowed down because I'm talking to the camera. If I was just cranking it out, it would go a little bit faster, but I can also function it to show you guys that you can be productive if you focus. You can kind of just crank these things out pretty quick, and after you've built one, they'll start coming together easier because you have the experience of putting the first one together. That's too big. So you'll have the experience of how the different materials stick together. So you'll be able to do it quicker on your second one than you do on your first one. Measure that, make sure it fits. We got perfect. So some hot glue on that. Looking great. I will go with my hot glue gun and smooth out that hot glue, kind of flatten it, and then fill in any spaces, because again, I'm going to put sand and texture all over these, so it should cover up most of the hot glue, so I can get as much hot glue as I want there, and I'm looking for structural integrity. So real quick, I'm just going to show you this. I'm just going to shake it from the bottom. You can see what shakes the most. This thing is not attached very well. So that's definitely going to be a focus here shortly. This guy that I did last night with putting these dowels all the way into the cardboard box and down into it has caused this structure to be very rigid and very safe, which is awesome. This piece it's somewhere in between those two. It's not super wobbly, but it's not the. I wouldn't try to pick up the whole piece with it. Um, so I need to fix that. I definitely need to fix that, and I think I can, if I solidify these together a little bit better, I feel like they that will strengthen them both. The other way I'm going to do that too is I would like to run some cross beams here, and we will do that now. And how I do that is the same way as how I did the, in fact, maybe one cross beam. How I cut these pieces. I'll just cut a little bit of an angle on one side so that it fits, and then cut an angle on the opposite side in the opposite direction, or in the same direction. No, opposite. Don't listen to me. Nah, when you look at it, you'll see that what I mean. So you got one angle cut here, and that, you know, they're kind of aligned. So if you turn this sideways, they'll be relatively flat. So when I stick that in there, it should line up relatively well. Fortunately, I didn't cut that angle good enough, but that's okay. Nine-Tail Hobbies. Have you built any Necropolis 28 game boards? No, but I want to. They're 2 foot by 2 foot, right? I haven't got to play Necropolis 28. I did watch a group of friends play it, and it looked really cool. They played on like a Mordheim board, but I'm pretty sure Necropolis is a 2 foot by 2 foot. I would have to do, personally, I feel like I would have to do more research on the game, possibly even play it, so I can get kind of like how the mechanics are, because there's nothing like building a table or building a board and then playing a game on it and realizing that the board isn't really functional for the game that you built it for. So that's where getting one of your friends, or if you are a rules type ahead, then you look up all the rules, or you get your friend that loves the rules and you have them kind of brainstorm what the criteria of what the do's and don'ts for terrain would be for whatever game you're playing. That'll always help you out. I have learned my lesson many a time building terrain and then having it be not playable. So something like that, maybe 16 by 16. Yeah, I've actually had somebody else suggest Necropolis 28. I just need to play it, like I said. If I played it, I definitely feel... I watched it played, and it looked really cool. Like, summoning... You're a necromancer, I guess, summoning creatures to fight your opponent who's a necromancer, summoning creatures or some sort. Dark wizard. It looked really cool. I had the idea for a smaller board like that, about 16 by 16, but doing it with like a lot of elevation. Once again, probably with something like that, a board that's very narrative, you're saying that it's supposed to be very narrative. I would definitely have to read some of whoever wrote the game, and read some of the fluff to get kind of the feel of it. But I do have some wacky ideas for smaller boards, of like how to get as much playable surface out of a table without having to have a 6x8 table or a 4x8 table or whatever. How much square footage you can actually of play surface can you actually get? Like, I think it would be really cool to do a 2x2 board that is like 4 foot tall, and you set on the ground, and there's a lot of metal plating that you can use magnets, so things can play like sideways have like aliens fighting space soldiers on the walls. I don't know, something like that would be cool. Uh, but for something like Necropolis, I would probably do something real twisted. Like you gotta get real twisted. Necromunda is fun for me to build because we live in an industrial society that manufactures things and throws them away, and so replicating a miniature society that industrial society that manufactures things and throws it away, that that's very easy to do. Working on a 15mm vertical skirmish gun. That's cool. Like, and when you say magnetic terrain, do you mean like the terrain itself is magnetic, and you place it on the board, or the terrain has magnets in it where units can then perch on the terrain? Because I really like that idea. That's a cool thing. I've thought about that before. So we're gonna go ahead and just, since we have this and we just did that, the fascia board on that platform, we're just gonna go ahead and do this one and get it out the way. Nine Tail Hobbies, yo, you should send. I don't know if you have Instagram. You should send me a message or something. I'd love to. I'd love to hear more about that. Okay, but so we got little fascia pieces coming together. Is that gonna be big enough? Fortunately, I can't use its sister piece, so we're gonna have to cut a fresh one for the next piece. Okay. Oh, perfect. Yeah, hit me up on that. I would love to hear about it, because that is cool stuff. I have had ideas too of, and this is a debate. I haven't ever done it because the conversation always turns in the opposite direction of how I feel about it, which is moving terrain. Uh, I've heard the opinion where, for example, certain games have like moving objectives, and and I do know some people that hate moving objectives because it just makes the game a lot harder to try to move the objective out from underneath this unit and that whole thing. Or like, for example, bridges disappearing while a unit is on top of it or whatever. But I mean, I'm gonna have to say that like having to move all your miniatures around is part of the game, right? Like, I understand excessively move it around isn't necessarily what you're looking for, but like fiddling with your models is playing with your models, and isn't that what you're doing? Oh snap! What up, Clear Coat? Oh, you know, I'm building Necromunda stuff and yakking. I am building Necromunda terrain. These are 1 foot by 1 foot squares of Necromunda terrain for a, I guess, 3 foot by 3 foot table. We'll see how crazy. I started building, I think I had 4 of them before I started doing these live streams and kicking it back up again, but there has been more kind of sci-fi in my community lately, and I love building sci-fi terrain, so I'm trying to support it as much as I can. So I'm definitely going to try to get a cool table and run a narrative for some peeps. That would be really fun. But what's Necromunda? So Necromunda is a skirmish tabletop battle game. I don't know how to describe it. So like Games Workshop produced Warhammer 40k. Zamparini. That's a cool name. Have you ever seen a tabletop battle game before in any sort? Because that's really the information I need to know to how to describe it to you. But you basically get a group of... Okay, so you do know 40k. No, Necromunda is its own game. Necrons are a race or species in the 40k universe. Necromunda takes place in the 40k universe. It's a skirmish-based gang warfare. You should check it out. The old Necromunda is you can go on Yak Tribe and get all the rules and all that. So, and then play it miniature agnostic. So you can basically do it for free. You know, so getting into it is... Oh, I guess I should have cut that first, huh? So, that's looking good. I love the way that takes away the in construction sort of feel that the edge of the plastic card. Yeah, if you have a group of... If you play tabletop, you might check out Necromunda. That's a good one. If you like fantasy more, you can check out Mordheim. Go to broheim.net. They have all the rules and stuff you can get for that. And, you know, once again, just if you're playing with your friends, it can be miniature agnostic, and you can build crazy buildings. I mean, if you want kind of an example of I mean, you can do fantasy too, right? Like, build fantasy terrain as well. But it feels really good to be back on the sci-fi, because that's really, I don't know, it's really fun to play. Durzin, what up, buddy? Thank you. How do you say that name again? Zamparini? That's a cool one, bud. Okay, so I put a little cross brace. I don't know, can you see back here? There's only one cross brace here. Should I put another one here? Yeah, I agree with you, Durzin. And I think it's because we live in an industrial society as opposed to a pre-industrial society, so it's familiar to us. So it's almost like it comes a little natural building sci-fi terrain or industrial terrain, at least for me. That could just be how I feel about it. I think that looks good. This is still super shaky. I feel like if I seal that, and I'm thinking maybe if I do some a big strap of EVA foam holding these, hot glued these together, I feel like that the whole piece will be a lot stronger. I also like to design all my pieces to be able to lift it up by a single piece, and this one isn't there yet. So cool. Some of them cross brace for sure. You want another one in there? I'm gonna have to agree with you, because that I like the symmetry. So we'll cut up another cross brace. These paper straws are so much more enjoyable to work with than the plastic straws. This is it's just a bunch of straws. Great resource. One of the best, cheap and easy tubing without, you know, buying the plastic toys or whatever. I do scrounge a lot, so I don't know if I know this doesn't happen everywhere because I've lived other places where it doesn't happen, but around here they put like stuff out on the curb and it just says free on it and you can pick it up. So a lot of times there's like old toys and stuff in it. So I am not embarrassed. I will snag somebody's old remote control car from the free pile and turn it into terrain. So get the angle right in there. Okay, so that's gonna fit, but it's in a wonky spot, so I'm most definitely gonna get hot glue all over the place. But like I said, if I just go back where that hot glue is a little hot still and kind of burnish it down, whether I do it with my hand or say a stick, which is wiser. Oh, come on, buddy. Then the hot glue won't have such a shiny, smooth surface, and if we've learned anything with painting, a smooth surface means the paint isn't going to stick as well. So that means that your hot glue or your wood glue isn't going to stick as well. Yeah, it's crazy how much stuff people just put out on the road. I was just going down the block and there was a bunch of baby car seat stuff on the side of the road. I don't know. I feel like take it to the donation place so it doesn't sit in the water and get ruined. But I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, we got the second cross brace on there. And I think this is such a weird thing that's going on. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the glue that holds this piece didn't really adhere to this thing. So it's just kind of floating there with the EVA foam above it. So when I push down, it kind of, yeah, it shakes a lot more. So I'm going to try to I'm just gonna have to EVA foam this together. But before I do that, I want to put some caulking on it. Just to give the caulking a few minutes to kind of set up before I start messing with it. And I'm not super worried about the caulking either, because we'll just take a dowel and smear that kind of down. And any of this leftover caulking, and I try not to get this everywhere because while I'm working on it, you'll get it all over your hands, but it does add texture to smooth surfaces pretty well and stay sticky. It actually sticks on it. You have to kind of like scrape it off to get it off. Oh, oil washes, they're great. I have I don't know where the jars. Yeah, I mean this. I need to make some more, but this is like a staple. The only suggestion I would say for oil washes, especially on terrain, is that it does affect it does affect adhesives in different ways. Like I definitely have had put, oil wash something with that black wash, and then had all the seams where the hot glue with the two different plastics just decided to let go after the white spirit and the oil wash hit it. So I would just be aware of that when you're doing it, and try not to flood. Just try not to flood the piece too much, because I feel like that I don't know, the white spirits is just so good at breaking things down that it kind of breaks down your adhesives a little bit too. So just be careful with that. Other than that, like I said, I use that oil wash so much. In fact, I had to go buy like one of the big old tubes of black oil paint because I was using the little ones so quickly. So yeah, oil washes are great, and the other thing is the homemade pigment powder. I have an old coffee grinder that I take and put chalk in. Cheap chalk from the dollar store. And the pigment, the like actual pigment in those chalks isn't very good, so it's not very strong. So you end up having to do quite a few layers of it. But it's a hell of a lot cheaper than buying, expensive pigment powder. So if you're doing it on the discount, that's the way to go. You also can like change the color of the pigment powder quite a bit that way, because you have control of you got the control. So I'm just cutting out EVA foam strips for the next part where I mess up and make them all the wrong size, all different sizes. It's gonna be backwards cut. I think my razor knife is finally dying. That's the end of it. I can't break anymore. So I'm thinking just like full strap. Is that too big? Is that too much of a weird gap here? Would it be better just to do them like this and rely on that that caulking? I could put more caulking in there and really dam it up. I wouldn't be able to do much more on it if I don't. Suppose I could put a clamp on it real quick, just to keep me from knocking it. Because the problem I have is, like, if you work on something that's drying, you'll end up just knocking the pieces that you are trying to get dry to stick together. You'll just knock them apart. So I could put more caulking on that, and then put a clamp on that, and then maybe do a bit of detail and wait on this EVA foam until it's dry. Because although I don't necessarily I don't know if I like the way it looks on this side. I do like the way it looks here. Like that. See, that's cool. But I don't like it coming off of this. Well, I definitely want to do EVA foam around this, and this is like almost the perfect. So do this piece. So I'm gonna EVA foam up this real quick, because I feel like even just one band right there would add quite a bit to it. So hot glue. This I don't know what's going on with my glue gun, but it just started getting so hot that it's melting the bottle. Which is kind of intense, but it does add a cool effect. If you wanted really twisted metal, you could probably just hold that tip to it and melt that plastic. I try not to melt plastic too much because that shit ain't good for you. You should not be breathing in that stuff, and so I try not to do that. Perfect. Now this has a nice band. I might go try to dig up some resources for like some rivets or something. Some little gems or beads or something. I don't have any available at the moment, so I'm not really going to worry about that. I think what I will do is that I got to start thinking about more of the details on here. We're going to have to think about the ladder, which we'll probably use a chunk of that. Does this fit here? Could it fit here? If I hung it from the bottom. Yeah, that could be a thing. No, not really. Okay. I was wondering too, maybe should I put the ladder on the inside? It don't matter. We'll put the ladder here. This is cool. So we're just gonna cut that right there. Oh. Yeah, I might have to go find another razor knife because this one is killing me. So I built these ladders. These are like little MDF ladders I got. I think they're for like fairy houses or something, they said. I don't know, but a pack of 20 of them were like $4, I think. And I've just glued them between two bamboo skewers to make them longer. And then I cut that down to the size that I want it. Yeah, well, let's make a ladder real quick. Then all these are, that's like a leaf or something from Lego. Legos are another toy that you find a lot of, where there's like just random parts. They're nothing that could actually be like made into anything if you were like a Lego head, but like you get jars of Legos. Like I'm pretty sure that like this was going to the recycling center filled with Legos. So and like the basic squares of Legos, I mean it's a shape, so you could always use it, but certain shapes are great. Now I try not to keep, I try to make things not recognizable for what I actually used them from. So I really like these leaf pieces, and what I do is I'll cut one of these stem pieces right off of there, and I need two for the tops of the ladder. So I got two of these little things, and that plastic is usually flexible enough that I can There you go. Just pop it right on there. Now that really helps to sell the idea of like a ladder that is held there by something besides. When you look at ladders, they're not right. Like look at a fire escape or something in behind a building, tall building. The ladder won't be shoved up against the wall. In fact, a lot of times, I mean, they do have the ladders that go straight up against, but they're always pushed away from the wall. Or they'll be like that from the wall. So I use stuff like this to kind of replicate that. And these little Lego leaves, they do a good job, because how many little chunks you get, and you get different sizes. You get this fat one here and the small ones there, different lengths of plastic stem sort of piece. So yeah. Okay, come on, get on there. So I'll just put a little bit of hot glue in the tops of them because they're hollow, so that'll get a little better adhesion. So blam, now I got. Now, I probably actually shouldn't have used the longer ones. I probably should have used the little shorter ones, because I don't need that sticking out quite that far. But it's cool. It lines up with the little hatch right here. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it. Normally, I think I would trim this down, because the further out you put it, the more likely it's gonna get smacked and torn off of there during gameplay. So what I am going to do is I'm gonna grab this little pointer. And then give myself a couple little spots of where. Oh, that was a little too much. Got to turn it so I can see it a little bit better. Actually, that might work perfect. So that's just a nail stuck to the end of a smooth down stick. Works really good for poking holes or marking things. So I poked some holes in this paper straw. Here's a piece of it, which I love to use, because a plastic straw, that would have been a little bit harder to poke the hole in and shattering it. I guess I don't know, I just like working with the paper. I find it a little bit more forgiving than the plastic straws. So I just poked holes, and then I took the remainder part of that green little supporting piece and I shoved it in there. I mean, it's pretty good. I could probably leave it there if I wanted modular ladders to be able to pull that off and put that back on and that type of thing, but I don't. I'm going to glue it in there. I want permanent pathways on these terrain pieces, because it allows you to learn each piece individually and have to relearn the battlefield. And I have an issue with static boards, that I feel like once you've learned the battlefield, you'll know where the crappy area and where the point is, that if you take, it's a really hard fight to get you off of that point. Whereas modular boards, you never know what's coming next. And I'm trying to find the balance between that static and modular. And I find that making each piece like its own individual little static board, and then making it so that those pieces slot together with other pieces, adds so much variety, because I could have one piece here that is fairly open, and that gives these platforms a wonderful line of fire into this area. Or I could put another piece that's tall and run a platform across, and all of a sudden it's a little tiny walkway right here instead. So I like that, the 1x1 cubes for that. I definitely do want to try a 2x2 board. I think that would be really cool to do something with a lot of verticality in 2x2. I do have some just places that I feel like some texture might need to go. So I'm just gonna cut me out some little chunks of texture. This is just granny grading and some plastic card. It started out as like the top to a Tupperware dish. It doesn't. It's not my favorite thing to like a high-end modeler wouldn't be paying for that because it doesn't glue very well. But for the price and for how much I have, it works great. So I'm just gonna try to add some little chunks to this area here to give it more of a walkway. In fact, should I put a ladder down? I think what I want to do. So here's another thing I say, like, this is the MDF sprue from like a terrain kit, the MDF terrain kits. Those are great too. But I like to save this stuff because it has very industrial shapes on it, and it's really strong for what it is. And here's the thing that I hate about the MDF terrain is, like, when you first get it, your hands turn black trying to put it together. It's pretty funny. Yeah, I like that. I don't know how well you can see that right there, but just adds a little bit more play space here. But it makes it impossible to get your hand in there, so unfortunately that might have to stay. Maybe I can put a smaller chunk on this side. That's what I'll do. Try to change the angle of this end here to match up a little bit better. That looks good, that looks good. Put that on there before I change my mind. There we go. Given the same feel, but without blocking up too much space. So there you go. That was actually a little bit of live problem solving right there. I know I didn't articulate it very well, but I started out with this piece here. It was really long, and I set it across here, and it looked really good with this chunk of metal or whatever across there. It looked like the beginnings of a pathway, and having this kind of circular pathway is cool. That's a cool effect. But the problem is that with that there was absolutely no way to get your hand, and I don't have the biggest hands. I do kind of have fat palms, so if I can get my palm in there, I'm usually pretty happy. But with that piece of wood there and the chunk of plastic, there was no way I was going to get my hand in there. So what I did was I broke that piece of MDF down and scooted it over off of this edge instead of this edge here, uh, and put the same piece just into giving the same feel of like layered stuff, somebody building a better walkway. So, but without blocking up my ability to get to the minis down there. So that's always a thing to look out for. I've been building terrain for a while, so I feel like that comes to me unconsciously a lot of times. I wish I would have articulated why I did that when I was doing it, but at least there's a little bit of like cause and effect type of thing. You really don't have to worry about that if you're building more open terrain. That's only something that you really have to worry about if you're building claustrophobic crap like I am, because you got to be able to play on it, right? Unless you're just building a diorama, which the diorama gives you some power to be able to just be like, nope, this area is done, and I'm going to work my way slowly out of it and build up around it so that nobody can get their hands in it ever again. You only can look at it. And I definitely dig that, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm building terrain to be played on. One of my favorite things about terrain too is I've donated some to like local game stores for them to play on it, or especially when I've been moving and I can't take the stuff. And I've had people be, worried that it's going to get broken. And I love coming back to the game stores and seeing how much of my terrain has survived. Or if somebody else, some other terrain head has taken initiative and torn it apart and rebuilt something out of it. Because that's always cool too. In fact, I donated all these. I did these modular 6-inch by 6-inch cube buildings that stacked on top of each other because I really wanted like a like a hab block sort of feel. And then when I moved, I donated it to the game store. And then next time I stopped in the game store, someone had taken them all and glued them all together, so they weren't modular anymore. But that was fine. And painted them, and then did this really cool like miniature graffiti all over them, which had a really cool effect. So it looked even more like a hab block because of all the graffiti and extra detailed painting that they did. So if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm just trying to fill in this little gap behind here. You might be like, oh man, Blurs, you're getting caulking everywhere. Yeah, it'll add texture to it. Not super worried about it. I definitely don't like this big smear I left right here, so we're just gonna smear that away. But I don't mind it so much. I get a little bit of the caulking. I'll also try to put it on things that structurally need it. But I've been trying to do these live streams about an hour long a piece, so we're getting about to the hour mark, which is when I make sure to drink some water and take a break, because I have a tendency to build and build and build and not really think about my own well-being, and then I end up tired and hungry and dehydrated and don't want to even mess with this anymore. So instead, to keep my enjoyment of building terrain higher, I build for an hour and then I take a break. So the fact that I got this caulking everywhere and it needs to dry now is no worries, because I'm going to go take a break here in a moment and let this dry. So we're not going to stress about that too much now. So this is where we got to today. I'll pop it up a little bit for you. So that's turning out really super cool. I am really pretty awesomely inspired that it's been done with like community input and with, you know, conversation going on along with it, as opposed to me just here videotaping stuff. There is quite a bit more work to do. I'll have to let the caulking dry, but then I want to do some more EVA foam details there. I also need to add some wiring. Probably going to use some more tubing to just add structural integrity and more detailing in the building area, and then we'll also do some electrical wiring and make some wire harnesses and put them on, and then it's pretty much done. There will be more texture we'll have to do here, but and maybe touch up the stucco there. Oh, that's not long enough. There we go. That'll keep some nice pressure on that while it dries. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty excited about how this is turning out. Maybe in my next one, I'll try to set some of them together so you guys can get kind of a feel of how the Underhive is starting to look. Other than that, I'm gonna sign off, go get myself a drink of water. You all should do the same. And thanks for joining me, and I will catch you next time on the madness that is existence.